Welcome to Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. I'm Steve Swatt. In the next few minutes, we're going to talk about the 50th anniversary of one of those transformative events, the March on Washington and Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech. My guest of the segment is Shirley Weber, a member of the State Assembly from San Diego. Thanks for being with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So let me ask you, first of all, do you remember where you were when he gave that speech?
You know, I was a kid at the time. I do remember all of the excitement around the speech itself. I was living in Los Angeles, and I remember the excitement around it. And I remember seeing the pictures of all these people around the Washington Monument, and didn't grasp the significance of it living in Los Angeles as a kid, but I remember my parents' excitement about what was going on in Washington, D.C.
Let's talk about the significance, because in 1964 and 1965 you had the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and there are a lot of factors that played into that. I mean, the tenacity of Lyndon Johnson to get it through, the legacy of John Kennedy, who started the ball rolling, the overreach by law enforcement in the southern states, and we saw that on television and things like that. How important do you think this march was in terms of coalescing support and getting those acts passed?
Well, I think it was extremely important, because I think many of the kind of isolated incidents that we talk about that led up to the march and that came afterwards were important in a sense that we felt it was a Southern thing. It was not necessarily a national thing, and yet the March on Washington brought the national attention. And it really not only just that event but in Washington, but around the world. And so to have a 250,000 people in one place at one time, and we can do that now through the internet, but to do it in 1963, to have 250,000 people that were from a very diverse background, very diverse not only in terms of ethnicity, but careers and positions in the world, to actually focus on the question of what is America going to do about this lingering problem of equal opportunity and access in America, I think was very significant.
And of course, this was a television event at a time, 1963, when television was just starting to emerge as the primary source of news and information for the American public.
Yes, and television played a major part not only in the March on Washington, but also in the civil rights movement. You know, having taught Africana studies, one of the things we learned that what happened was that the whole struggle for equal rights and justice was brought into people's homes at 5 o'clock in the evening around the dinner table, and they could see what was happening in the South, they could see what was happening in Washington. So that brought the national attention, unlike any other activity before.
So the Legislative Black Caucus in Sacramento is marking the 50th anniversary.
We are marking the 50th anniversary as what we call the Unfinished March, because as we look at the great accomplishments for the past 50 years, all of us in the legislature are obviously a result of that, the efforts of the last 50 years. But we also know that the whole struggle for equal opportunity, for justice and for jobs and education still continue. And so it's not only to memorialize it, but also to recommit ourselves for finishing the dream that King had.
And of course, you can't help but read the newspapers and read about what's going on, what has happened in North Carolina, where they have very, very restrictive, voting requirements, shall we say, in the state of Texas.
Exactly.
And this is in the wake of the U.S. Supreme Court striking down a portion of the Voting Rights Act.
Exactly. And so which says, once again, we have to be vigilant. We can never take for granted that everyone enjoys the same kind of freedoms that we believe everyone should have, and that given an opportunity, people won't unravel it. So it teaches us a lesson of vigilance, that we have to keep pushing the agenda, and we have to keep our eyes on it. Those of us who believe in equal opportunity, access and justice, and the right to vote have to keep our eyes on the ball.
All right. Well, a fascinating subject. Shirley Weber, thanks for coming by and talking about this 50th anniversary. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
And thanks to our viewers also for watching Local Edition on Time Warner Cable. A reminder, you can see this and other interviews on My Government on Demand, also on YouTube. I'm Steve Swatt. Have a great day.